Imagine you walk into a store and pick up a hoodie. It feels simple. But behind that hoodie is a massive global machine that starts with raw fibers and ends with finished products arriving on shelves, on time, at the right quality, and at the right cost. That machine is this building block: textiles, manufacturing, and apparel supply. And this block is big. One industry estimate puts the global textile market at about $1.11 trillion in 2024. At the heart of apparel, footwear, and lifestyle products lies the upstream engine room, where fibers become yarn, yarn becomes fabric, and fabric becomes the finished products we know and love. This engine powers the entire ecosystem, supplying brands and retailers with what they need to deliver to consumers. In short, it's the backbone of the industry, turning raw materials into the products that define our everyday lives. All right, let's start with what this block actually is. This block has 5 big layers. First, you have fiber and filament producers, cotton and synthetic fibers like polyester and nylon, plus blends. Second, you have spinning and yarn makers. Third is fabric mills and processing, weaving or knitting, dyeing, printing, and finishing. Fourth is cut and sew manufacturing, often called OEM and ODM. OEM, ODM. And fifth is specialty or technical textiles, performance fabrics, industrial textiles, and textiles used in things like medical or automotive applications. So, what do companies in this block actually sell? Mostly it's B2B output, not consumer products. They sell yarn, fabric, and finished fabric. They also sell full garments made to specialize. They sell components like knits, trims, elastic, and linings. And in technical textiles, they sell higher performance materials. Now, who buys all of this? The main customers are brands, then retailers, especially for private label, online native DTC brands, uniform and workwear buyers, and sometimes industrial buyers. And where does this block sit in the value chain? It's upstream to midstream. It feeds every consumer-facing block. Off-price and value retail often ends up consuming the overflow that gets created by upstream overproduction. And that overflow point is important. If brands overorder and then can't sell, inventory problems ripple upstream. Let's take a closer look at why this block, the upstream engine room, matters, especially from an investor's perspective. First, it shapes cost and availability. By efficiently converting raw materials into finished products, it keeps shelves filled and ensures steady supply, which directly impacts revenues. Second, it determines speed to market. A streamlined process allows brands to refresh styles quickly, capturing trends and consumer demand before competitors. Third, it drives quality and fit consistency. Consistent products mean fewer returns, stronger brand trust, and happier customers, all critical for long-term growth. Finally, it impacts compliance and reputation. Responsible sourcing, labor standards, and environmental stewardship aren't just ethical imperatives. They protect brands from regulatory risks and enhance investor confidence. In short, this block isn't just about production. It's a strategic engine that powers cost efficiency, market agility, product reliability, and brand credibility. Textiles and clothing remain a significant part of global trade, accounting for roughly 3.7% of world merchandise exports in 2022. The global trade in textiles alone reached about $835 billion in 2023, highlighting the scale and importance of this industry. Across the supply chain, there are many notable players, from manufacturers and material suppliers like Shenzhou, UAUN, Texhung, Ecolot, Far Eastern, Niansing, Hyosung, Huali to brands such as Gildan and Unify. These companies illustrate the diverse and interconnected ecosystem that turns raw materials into the clothing and lifestyle products we use every day. While these examples are illustrative and not investment recommendations, they help us understand the global breadth and scale of this industry and why upstream operations are so critical to keeping the market running efficiently. When we look at the upstream engine room, we see four main business models: contract manufacturing, which includes OEM and ODM, material supply, technical textiles, and vertically integrated basics. Each model has its own dynamics, but all require significant resources to operate effectively. Capital is tied up not only in factories and machinery, but also in working capital, materials, work in progress, and receivables. Beyond equipment, ongoing investment in people and robust compliance systems is critical to ensure quality, safety, and regulatory adherence. Finally, these operations are energy intensive, particularly in processes like dyeing and finishing, which highlights both the cost and environmental considerations involved. In short, running this engine room requires careful management of capital, talent, and energy to keep the entire apparel and lifestyle ecosystem moving efficiently. The upstream textile and apparel world is a thin-margin, high-volume business. Success here is driven by utilization, yield, and quality, and careful management of input costs. Many mills operate with single-digit margins, typically 8 to 10% gross and only 1 to 3% net, which highlights just how competitive this sector is. Key drivers of performance include demand and inventory cycles, raw material prices, labor and energy costs, trade and compliance requirements, and the ability to differentiate capabilities. The market is particularly crowded at the low end, where competition is fierce. At the high end, however, barriers to entry are significant, including scale, strict compliance standards, and the trust required to become an approved vendor for leading brands. In short, while the business can be challenging, strong execution and trusted capabilities create meaningful advantages in this tightly contested space. The upstream apparel and textile world is highly cyclical. When demand slows, upstream suppliers feel the impact first. Inflation and job concerns lead to order cuts, which in turn lower utilization. Over the past 3 to 5 years, this sector has faced increasing scrutiny and regulation. The UFLPA has heightened traceability requirements. The EU's waste policies mandate up to 30 months for extended producer responsibility setup. Digital product passports are emerging. Sustainability standards are getting tougher. And freight volatility remains a key concern, as tracked by indices like Drewry's WCI. Looking ahead, the industry is likely to split. Commodity capacity will compete fiercely for utilization, while differentiated suppliers will act as strategic infrastructure for brands. Scenario-wise, an upside could see clearer rules, longer partnerships, and growth in technical textiles. A base case reflects persistent cycles, and a downside could involve price wars, trade friction, and sustainability costs squeezing margins.